Welcome back to the Artefactors Union. I am your host and foreman, Douglas Scoundrels, and today we are assembling the Waiting in the Wings box for the Arcanist faction. This is the Performer keyword. This box contains 4 models, 2 mannequins, and 2 Coryphee. Artwork on the front, we've got a Coryphee over here, a mannequin over here, and I generally can't tell which one the one in the middle is. It doesn't quite match the artwork or the renders on the back, so it doesn't matter, they're relatively similar. It just runs a little bit stabbier than the other. Here's our renders. We got the mannequins up here with lovely little knife fingers, and then the Coryphee have slightly larger knife fingers. Okay, let's look at the sprues. There are sprues, relatively small, but there are a lot of bits on each of them. The mannequins are here. They're going to be more difficult to assemble than the Coryphee, but we're going to go ahead and start with the Coryphee. Both of them are on the sprue, the divider line being this shaft right here. So let's go ahead and start on this first one. For our first Coryphee, we're going to hit the camera, and then we're going to grab the large chunk of the skirt. We'll add the left leg, which is also a portion of the skirt, and then figure out if we can finish off the rest of the skirt with this bit, or if we need to add the right leg in there. We'll see. Hopefully we can just add the rest of it on here, and then slap the right leg underneath all of that. Once we have the lower half done, we'll have the 2 halves of the torso, put that on top, then the head, and then we'll add the arms, which kind of freeform. You can kind of pose them however you want. Alright, we're looking at the skirt as it sits if we were face-to-face with the Coryphee. So our left leg is just going to go right along here, and it's going to kind of fill in this gap, because that's where the torso will eventually go. And that's what it's going to look like. Very little seam there. That's just good. We'll do the right leg next, and it's going to go right there. Alright, goes in fairly easily. You can see the seams were attached to the rest of the piece, the lower half, I guess. So our last bit of the skirt is just going to fill in this gap here. And this is what the entire lower half looks like. Okay, let's revisit the sprue. Alright, only 5 bits left. We are going to grab both halves of the torso here, this being the front and this one being the back. Then we'll glue that onto the model, followed by the head, which will obviously go on top of the torso, and then I'll figure out which arm is which, and I'll let you know. Actually, our arm with the stitching on it, which is this one, is going to be our right arm, and the smooth one is going to be our left. So let's start with the 2 bits of the torso. So first our back of the torso, with our front half added, and just add it onto the lower half. Now do the head. There we go. There is a ridge on the connection point, so it will fit solidly on there. Now do the right arm with the stitching, and pose it however you like. I just went straight up in the air for reasons. Let's do the left arm now. Just like that, we're all done. Get her on a 40. Coryphee 1 is done. We're going to call her Asami. Hardest part, I guess maybe making sure that the right leg gets in the correct position, and then really not much other than that. I guess making sure the waist of the torso sticks onto the skirt. There can be a pretty big gap there, depending on how you put the torso together, so just being extra sure that it's on there and it's not going to just immediately split in half when you're not looking. Alright? Okay. Let's move on to our next Coryphee. Okay, our second Coryphee is going to be slightly faster, hopefully. Got the entirety of the skirt here, and then we will add the standing leg as well as the curled up leg underneath that. Then we'll add the 2 halves of the torso together, plop that on top, do the bow right back here on the skirt, the head, and then figure out which arm is which. Alright, so start with the skirt and both legs first. So here's our skirt. Our standing leg is going to be our left leg, and it's going to fit right in there. And, oh, we can focus. Hooray. And our right leg is going to fit right in here, the folded leg. Okay, there it is in. The leg is effectively perpendicular with the left leg. the back of the calf and ankle are also connecting to the skirt, not just that sort of plug on the end of the thigh. But we're done with that, so let's combine our bits of our torso next. Torso back combined with our torso front. You see this nice ridge here, and then it matches the ridge on the torso, which means I'm terrible at putting things together on camera, but there we go. Okay, on our back, our ribbon is going to connect in there, and then the actual, like, tail of the ribbon will be going down that way. There it is, nice and pretty. Now let's add our head on top. Okay, so here's our head bit, and I want to warn you that when you're clipping it off, you can see where it was connected to the sprue right here. When you want to give as much of this part to stay on the head as you can when you clip it, because if you clip too high or trim too high, it's not going to fit on the head very correctly. Along those lines, if you dry fit it onto our torso here and you find that that bit you cut too far and so it's not quite sitting flush right here, just do a bit of shaving up here to sort of even it out. There we go. Took just a little bit of shaving and TLC, but I got the head on there and it looks like a pretty good connection. So now let's do our arms. Okay, so as far as figuring out these two, it helps to look at the render, but if you look on the render, you can see that up here there's kind of a sleeve, but you can't really see sort of the inside of it. But if we flip over here, you can see that there's this like circular kind of gear thing and whatnot. So you can see this here, but not on the other side. So this would effectively be like the inside of the arm. So this would be our left arm, and this would be our right arm. So flip back over. This is our left arm. This is our right arm. So left arm and our right arm. She is all done. Get her on a 40 mil. Coryphee 2 is done. We're going to call her Coray. Hardest part was the neck of the head and the right leg as well, just making sure it was positioned correctly. I actually got it in wrong initially. I didn't point that out to you, but I had the foot pointing outwards weirdly, so make sure that's aligned correctly. But pretty easy. Some small connection points, so make sure you use enough cement to make sure it's going to stay on there. Okay, let's move on to our other minions. All right, here's our Mannequin sprue. I'm going to start with Mannequin 1 and Mannequin 2. But the little teeny tiny fingers will be our last one. So we'll grab the torso and then the back half of the skirt. Jam both of the legs in there. And then we'll add the back half of the torso and plus the left arm. Then the right arm, the head, and then we'll figure out how to get the little flower on there. Okay, so I grab this piece and then this piece. Okay, here's our torso and skirt, or at least the front half. Turn around, we'll add the back half of the skirt first. Simple enough. Now we look at the bottom. Our standing foot is going to be the right foot. That's going to go in on that side. Like so. And then our pointed toe is going to be our left leg and that side. There we go. Alright, now let's add the back half of the torso and the left arm. Yeah, this is a position to be in, I guess. Now we do our right arm. Alright, so our right arm is actually also going to be part of the connection point that our head is going to sit on. You can barely make out the seam right inside here. Yeah, this is the weird position it's supposed to be in. So now let's go ahead and jam our head on there. Okay, this is the head. Yeah, it's also kind of a weird position, but it's just being excessive. Okay. So there's a lot of twisting you can do on it, and the best way I can say to line it up is you can see if you can get. You see this slightly smooth spot right here. that should flow into the slightly smooth spot on the shoulder. You can see where the seam is, where head attaches, and this whole smooth thing is going to be where we put the flower. Okay, so I'm going to be honest. I don't think you should care what the orientation is or if it's exactly accurate to how the render is. I checked the render. I think I've got the orientation correct, but that's just based on like the particular pedal that loops there, that hooks severely or whatever. It looks right to me. But I think the most important thing to use to get it on the model and make sure it's cured as fast as possible, because that flower is very tiny. And sacrifice 100% accuracy for making sure you don't lose it. All right? All right. We're done. Let's base them. Mannequin number 1 is done. We know Miss Colette Dubois names her mannequins after days, so this is going to be Faraday. I'm hilarious. The hardest part was the flower, pretty easily there. The head was also kind of hard to get on there in the correct position. It was very, very wiggly and just a pain to get into place. But again, poking it enough with a X-Acto knife will usually get it to where you want it to go. Other than that, it's just a weird pose, and if you didn't know how it was supposed to be posed, you'd probably be second-guessing yourself a whole lot. Other than that, not the worst. Yeah, we'll say not the worst. Okay, let's move on. Okay, our last mannequin, probably the hardest model in this box. Let's do it. We've got 3 pieces of a skirt. This is going to be the front part of it. If the mannequin were facing us, we'd see pretty much this bit, none of these two. This is going to be the back left piece. This is going to be the back right piece. We'll combine them all together, and then we'll go ahead and slap the torso on it. Why not? We will add the 2 legs, which will slot into holes underneath the bottom of the skirts, and we'll go ahead and add the head. And, yeah, head and the flower, because we're going to study these and make sure we get them right. And be very, very careful with the fingers and the fingers, all right? So let's clip out our 3 skirt pieces first. Starting piece, front of the skirt, turn it over, and then we add the left side. And for some reason you clipped them out and forgot which was which. This is the right side piece, and we know it's the right side piece because of this little extra bit sticking out here that you don't have on the other bit on the left side. So this is what it looks like now with the 2 pieces together, and now we'll add that right side in there. Okay, here's our completed skirt. We're looking at it face to face with the mannequin. Let's put the torso on there, which will help solidify the connected pieces. Alright, really good seam. So let's work on the feet now. And I didn't point it out on the sprue, but to tell our legs apart, just look at the sole of the feet, just see the slightest curve there, indicating that this is our left leg. So the other one needs to be our right leg. Left leg is going to go in, and it's going to be pointed more or less straight. So we're looking at that hole right there. Okay? Not as pointed as straight as I thought it would, but, you know, still fairly straight. What I more mean is that the right foot is going to be almost completely sideways. She's going to be stepping forward onto it. So let's jam the right leg in there. Okay, that's the stance we're looking for. Let's not drop her, though, if we can help it. Now, let's put the head on where the heads go. Okay, heads on. Just check the connection point along the side of the neck. Lines up with the connection point on the shoulder. You can sort of see the pocket here. That is where our flower is going to go. And taking a wild guess, I'll let you know if I'm wrong or not, there's just a slight ridge right here on the connection point. If we look at the back side of our sprue, you can kind of see there's a corresponding groove there on the flower. So I'm going to see if that fits, and if not, I'll just rearrange, and then I'll eventually show you the final product, okay? I think I was correct. I believe that's how it's supposed to go. It looks nice from all angles, really. So my camera will focus. There we go. Okay, now let's deal with our arms. Okay, our arms And specifically, the fingers is going to be our big pain point here. The fingers, individual fingers, go on sort of the inside of the hand, like if they were a thumb, although not really positioned like a thumb. So just with that logic, this is going to be our left arm, this is going to be our right arm. What I think we can do is we can actually clip these out and glue them to the finger before we even clip the finger off the sprue, because the second that comes off the sprue, you're in a decent danger of losing it somewhere. So I'm going to see if I can do that. Glue it onto the sprue first, and then clip it off once it's set. Another point, if you notice on the render or in the instructions, they're curled up closer to the arm than the other fingers are. Okay? Okay, this worked out pretty well. I clipped out our left arm, glued it into this finger over here, and it's pretty well cured, so I'm going to go ahead and clip it out. And as long as that worked out fine, then we'll go and glue it in. That clipped out fine. The only issue is cleaning it up with an X-Acto knife, but if you gently hold the knuckle and the tip of the finger with your thumb and forefinger and just very gently slide your knife along that edge, you should get enough off without like ripping it off. So let's add the arm now, left arm. There we go. Looks nice. I should also clarify that I don't know if there is actually a difference between the two fingers that are on there. I wouldn't worry too much about it. I would just rather get them on the arms and glue them in. So yeah, I might have added the wrong finger onto this arm. I don't care, honestly. So let's do our last arm now. Alright, right arm. Glued in okay. Let's clip it off and add it to our model. Yeah, she's all done. Let's get base her. Mannequin number 2 is done. We're going to call her Double Day. That's another day name. If it wasn't obvious, the fingers were the hardest part, although gluing the arms to them seems to be a decent way of making sure you don't immediately lose them the second you clip them off the sprue. So, hooray. Also just make sure you don't lose the flower either. And other than that, I don't want to call it easy. Obviously not easy. But those were the pain points, as I just stated. I'm rambling. Let's move on to the whole box. We are done with the Waiting in the Wings box, containing 2 Coryphee and 2 Mannequins. Hardest part were the Mannequins. Coryphee were relatively easy comparatively. And they're just, the flowers and the fingers on the one were the hardest parts by far. I'm sure that was obvious to you. Gotta be confident in your dexterity with this one's, but if you lose a piece, you lose a piece. It's okay. I don't see mannequins being used a whole ton in the game right now, so just be careful, and I'm sure you can get it done. But I have been your foreman, Douglas Scoundrels, helping you build a better Malifaux. Enjoy your robot dancer, ladies.